dating grandpa Gerry Turner travels to New Jersey, Washington, and Minnesota to meet his girlfriend's families. Theresa, Faith, and Leslie are officially in love with our ATV riding, horse riding, roller coaster riding hero. And Gerry stops the show before handing out the second rose. You are watching Romance Recap on Reader Seeks Romance channel, and we're discussing Hometowns Week on The Golden Bachelor, Season 1, Episode 6. I am Liz Donatelli.
And I'm Tiffany Current.
Join us as we discuss and dissect the second chance romance journey of widower Gerry Turner as he searches for a partner with whom to share the sunset years of his life. If you are listening to us on Podbean or your favorite podcast app, then be sure to like and subscribe to Romance Recap. And watch Romance Recap on Reader Seeks Romance's YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hello, Tiffany.
I gotta tell you, I feel like this week was ridiculous. Although my word of the week is disappointed. I'm disappointed that we did not get a full episode and a full ending, but that's just me. What about you?
Very disappointed as well. I think that the show is really teasing us now because they most definitely could have squeezed in Gerry giving out that second rose. So obviously they want us to wait until next episode, which is now going to be part of Women Tell All. So I don't know what's going on. I have to say, though, after watching Hometowns, I believe that the final two should be Faith and Leslie. I am shipping Faith and Gerry hard after this episode, and I want Gerry to live the cowboy ranch life with Faith.
I feel like that could be like a great, what is that like? Is it that the Yellowstone family? You know that Kevin Costner TV show that's out? This could be like another spinoff. This could be another spinoff, the cowboy ranch life with the golden years. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, by far, I think his visit to Benton City, Washington was the most romantic, but I will let you kick us off.
So we get started and Gerry is super excited and he is going to visit Theresa in, is it New Jersey? Where does he go?
Yes, in New Jersey, Shrewsbury, New Jersey, which I am not familiar with, but it's lovely. And she has a fantastic house.
She has a great house, and Theresa is super excited to introduce Gerry to her family. She has to meet her daughter, Jen, her two sisters, and her 3 grandchildren. And she's super excited and bubbly and very Theresa energetic. And that's when Gerry comes in. And I think this is the very first, was it a jump hug? I think everyone gave him a jump hug whenever they saw him.
You know what? I don't think she gave the jump hug. They had this awkwardly long running towards each other moment, and then they just embraced, but it wasn't the jump hug.
That's interesting. Okay, we should check that out. But yeah, they embraced, and then eventually she brings him in to meet the family. And that's when they start off by retelling the birthday suit story. And I totally forgot that she was the birthday suit girl. And I was like, oh my God, she was the one. So it's very funny to hear him retell that story and then see the reaction of slightly like horror from her from her family. Like, what are you doing, Mom? Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, I wonder if the producers told her, tell them about that, because I think that was an interesting choice to share with your family, including your young grandsons.
That was a weird story, but I would say right away, the daughter, Jen, likes her energy. And when I was looking at the daughter, who I loved, I thought she was very sweet. I got Alicia Silverstone vibes. Did you get like slightly Alicia Silverstone vibes? Just a touch for me.
No, I didn't, but I can see that.
I liked her though. She was sweet.
Jen is very close to her mom, and you see her, chatting with Theresa, and Theresa is just saying how wonderful, Gerry is. Like, everyone can agree. There's not a family member that we meet in this episode that does not adore Gerry, because he's so charming and nice and all that. What I thought was interesting is that Gerry meets with Theresa's grandsons.
Oh my God.
And they mentioned something that I thought was really like interesting insight into Theresa's life. They told Gerry that their Nana visits them a lot because she's lonely. And I thought that was really sweet, and Gary's just like, oh, and he experienced such joy talking to these boys that I was like he spoke so excitedly to
He's a
Theresa.
grandfather. Yeah, he's a
Yes,
grandfather.
to the grandsons. He spoke so excitedly to Theresa's sisters, but I
Yeah.
felt like when he was speaking with Theresa, there was a lack of a spark, and they just kept going over past things like, oh, remember our first
Okay.
date? And they, went over that again about how, she grabbed his hand when they were on the highway, and I just felt like he was vibing with everybody in her family but her. I don't know. Did you feel that way at all, or
I didn't get that. I mean, I did
okay?
feel that he was definitely vibing with the grandchildren because I think he's a grand.
Yes.
Can I just say though, with the grandkids,
Yeah.
you and I are different. We differ because they were very precocious to me. Whenever I see precocious children, I feel like I turn into Carol Burnett and Annie, and I just get like really irritated. Like, we're just singing that little girl song, like I hate little things, little socks. That's
Yeah,
what I
Miss
was feeling when I
Hannigan.
saw them. Yeah, Miss Hannigan. I was like, ah, precocious children.
How I hate little shoes and little socks in each little bloomer.
That was my opinion of the children. But I do feel like it was interesting to see how much he vibed. He fit really well into that family, in my opinion. He fit very well into the family. Everyone seemed to like him. And what I thought was the most interesting part was when he was talking to the daughter Jen,
Yes.
and she was saying, well, first of all, my mom is here every single day. Is that going to be an issue? Like,
Mm.
she's here all the time. And then she asked him, are you falling in love with my mom?
Yes, I wrote that down too. And his answer, actually, his answer is legit.
Legit.
It's a solid answer. He doesn't ignore her. He says, I'm not sure what falling in love feels like anymore. And explains that he hasn't experienced it since 1968 when he met his
Yes.
now departed wife, Tony. And he said he's still trying to figure out what it feels like to,
Yep.
again, say, like, I'm in love and really feel it. And, Jen, I thought the next scene was going to be Jen telling the mother, hey, listen, he's not in love with you. But she didn't, and, spoke with the mother and didn't reveal any of the conversation that she had with Gary, unless that's cut from the episode.
Yeah. And I think that was okay.
Yeah.
It was of note to me that he's like, I don't know what this love is. But then
Yeah.
of course we cut to them once again in a carousel, once again going up in the sky, once again fireworks going off. We get it, producers. We get that Teresa's your number one pick. We get it. Like, just stop with the fireworks though.
Oh, you
Come
think
on.
that was an indication that the production team is on Teresa's side?
No
Is
one
that
else got fireworks this episode.
Mm.
No one else got fireworks or was in a carousel this episode that I can recall.
Right?
That's fine. I think Teresa's a very sweet lady. I just thought that was of note.
She does. Even Gary says she's a doll. She's so
She's
darling. Which
she's a doll.
which to me was more like, oh, she's a nice lady I know. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel, again, I did not feel any true romantic, I'm so in love with you, Theresa vibes.
It was interesting because then when they cut to him talking one-on-one with the camera,
Mhm.
then he admits that he was potentially in love with Theresa, although he never said it to her face. So I thought that was kind of interesting to me.
He never said anything. He did not speak in any definitive language
That is true.
at this point. Correct.
And I will say, so we end the Theresa date, and from there, we go to my girl who I love, ride or die. We go to Faith.
Yes. And I've
We go to
always
Faith.
liked Faith. I just didn't see them kind of together until this episode. Oh my God. At the end of this, okay, I don't want to skip ahead, but I'm going to just make one comment is that we do meet Faith's sister, and Faith's
Yeah.
sister says to Gary, can't you just stay here and not keep going on the
I
rest of
know.
your journey? And I wanted to say, yes, stop here, Gary, make a home with Faith right this minute.
I agree with you, but we see them, and then this was a run jump. I think this is a run jump
This was a run
situation.
jump, yes. And Gary was ebullient. I wanted to use this word ebullient because it's the only way to describe how joyous he is at seeing her again.
She is the only person that he glows with. I wrote it
Yes.
down. He still glows. He still glows when he looks at her. He still glows when he looks at her.
Yes. Absolutely.
Maybe it's the Faith factor. All I know is I think maybe I'm in love with Faith because when I just saw her standing there with the horses, I thought she reminds me of like a character in a book I would have read. Like, I don't
Yes.
know, the woman in the black shirt and the jeans who rides horses and like is a ranch
Yes.
hand or something. She is like a romance novelist lead. Like that's who she
She
is.
absolutely is. And she was giving me knight in shining armor vibes when she was on the horse. And there's a
Oh,
scene where she's like, he's not on a horse, standing looking up at her, and she reaches her hand out to him. And I
oh.
was like, oh my God, like she is the heroine of a romance novel.
She is the heroine of a romance novel. She should have her own book. Whatever happens, I think she deserves her own show. I love her. It could just be her riding horses. I don't know. I love Faith. I love Faith.
Yes.
I don't.
Agreed.
I will say what's interesting, and basically he cannot stop looking at her, touching her, kissing her. But at some point, before she introduces him to her family, she does say, like, I am a little concerned because I can't see myself not being here near my grandchildren and also near her horse, which I thought was who had passed away, who she buried here, which I thought was very sweet. I'm like,
Yes.
that's so Faith.
I did not realize that Faith was into horses, that was part of her lifestyle. Was that mentioned and I missed it? Or was this like kind of a reveal to us?
This was a reveal. She mentioned
Okay.
that she lived in a very rural area
Yeah.
and that she would bathe in a creek and etc. But no mention of horses. No mention.
Yeah.
No mention
I
of
mean, I
horses.
was seriously impressed with her. I don't know what you would call it, her ranch, the
It's
ranch,
beautiful.
her farm. I mean, it was beautiful. And she seemed so at home.
So at peace. It
Yeah.
seemed like this is her in nature. This is who she is.
Yes.
I love Faith. I love her.
I do too. And she mentions, like you said, hey, listen, I don't want to leave my home. And this is where they get into a brief discussion about the logistics of their geographical differences.
Yes.
And, Gary's like, well, listen, if I'm going to be with you, I want to be with you all the time.
Yes.
So, this is something, we need to discuss. And
he did say, though, he did say he wasn't sure how to reconcile that.
Yes.
He did say that. And I thought, okay, that's a slight red flag. He did say that, though.
He doesn't know how to write. And I was thinking to myself, listen, I know you've got this lake house in Indiana, but if I were you, I would either work it out where you split the time between both of your homes, or just, give your lake house to your daughters and granddaughters to live in and you just move on that. Because even though he had never gotten onto a horse before, and even Faith was concerned, she's like, I don't want him to get hurt. He's never been on a horse. He got on that horse like the trooper we know that he is, that boat building, ATV riding, yellow Jeep riding hero that he is, got on that horse. And he looked comfortable. He even said, I'm completely comfortable with being here. And I'm like, you should live with her.
He should live with her. I will say from there, though, we do move on and we do meet her family. And I love her family. Not that I'm comparing, but I kind of did. This is my favorite family. I loved her sons. I loved her grandchildren. I loved her. Her sister was super fit, man. I'm like, those arms, man. That sister was super fit.
And she said that she was the older sister. And I was like,
she was the older sister. Like, this woman is in shape. Her sister is very protective of her and her heart.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I was almost brought to tears.
They were when they were talking, and then her sister was like, looking in your eyes, this is the most open I've seen you look. And she's like, I'm at peace. I'm at peace with him. And I was like, oh, Faith.
Yes. And then Gerry reveals to Faith's sister that he is at peace with Faith. And I was like, wow, you both said the same thing about peace, feeling at peace. Faith's sister and Gerry had some time together.
Yeah.
And she asked Gerry point blank, is my sister's heart safe with you? Now, Gerry didn't really answer directly, but he said, I love the way Faith looks at me, and that Faith brings me peace. And I think she and I want the same thing. And then Faith's sister says, well, I love how you make my sister feel safe. And she starts to cry. But when he says, I think she and I want the same thing, do you think he was talking about getting married? Like, what do you think he meant? Because it made it seem like,
wasn't sure.
We're both in love.
Like, maybe they both want the same thing as in a partner to spend the rest of their life with. I could say it that way.
Okay.
What was interesting, though, is that we see them all together again.
Yeah.
And then Gerry looks at Faith. Faith looks at Gerry and
Oh
he
my
said, should we
God.
say it out loud? And they both said, I love you to each other out loud and then kissed in front of her entire family, like a
Yeah.
legit, serious, hardcore
Yeah.
kiss in front of her family.
Oh, it was, first of all, I'm getting chills just reliving it in my mind because it was like this very like this buildup where they're
I
looking at each
know.
other. Should we? And they're
I
like speaking
know.
silently, the love of language with each, the love language with each other. And then they kiss and they go in for it. That is the first time he says he's in love with anybody.
That
Like
is the
this is
first
the
time. That
first
is
time.
correct.
And
he was like, he was ready to say it. He was like, let's just say it out loud. Let's just say it out loud. And he said it, and like the music swelled, and I was like,
oh my God. And the whole family was there watching, and just like there was just so much love on that porch.
I know.
And I was like, and then that's when Gerry tells Faith's sister, can you look out for Faith while I'm gone?
Yeah.
And they're
I
like,
gotta go to this next date. Gotta go to this next date. Sorry.
and then the sister's like, well, can't you, just end it right here. Now that brings a question. Like, could he have said, I don't want to continue anymore with hometowns? Picking. No, they won't let him do that, huh?
No. This is a television show, Liz. You can't not go on the next date. They paid for him to fly out to freaking Minnesota and etc. They have a crew standing by. It's happening.
I know. I really wanted him to say, I wanted to live there. I felt at peace watching them be at peace with each other on that ranch. If she is not picked, like, I'm going to be heartbroken.
Well, let's move on from your potential heartbreak and let's go on to the next date, which is in Minneapolis with Leslie. And I think they meet on a bridge. Is that where they're meeting? Are they on a bridge?
They meet on a bridge that may or may not be iconic for Minneapolis, because I thought that was an interesting choice. I've never been to Minneapolis, but they met on the bridge, and I too was like, this is an odd choice, but it might be a very well-known site.
I didn't know
I don't know.
But once again, a run and jump, because I did note that this was another run and jump.
It was a very excited run and jump. And what I thought was interesting is going into this reunion with Leslie, Gerry says that what he wants to get out of his visit is to experience her matriarchal side.
Oh, interesting. I missed that.
He really wanted to get a vibe on, what she's like with her family.
With her family.
Yeah.
So I will say, so they're on the bridge, and at that point, we learned that apparently Leslie also had a little bit of an incident happen when she was young. I guess when she was 15 or 16, her dad dropped her off at home, and then her brother came to pick her up at school. And then her brother came to pick her up a long time later, and we discovered that her dad died. And then her brother became her kind of father figure from that point on. So she has a serious kind of sad upbringing as well. So I thought
that was interesting too. See, again, this is why I feel like Faith and Leslie have a good shot of being the two finalists, because it seems like Gerry is drawn to people who have experienced hard times.
Hardship,
and he is drawn to them, whether or not he wants to help them heal, or he himself maybe has things about him that we don't know, aside from his wife dying. So I feel like he connects with people who have a history of heartbreak and tough times, and I feel like we haven't gotten that from Theresa. So
I mean, she did obviously have the heartbreak from her husband dying. Pretty quickly, but in regards to a childhood trauma, we have not heard that side of her. But I will say that Leslie is very excited for him to meet her brother. I guess she calls him a mensch, and she's like, you would be a mensch too, which is funny that she says it, because then later on the brother says the same thing to him. So I thought that was kind of cute. I thought that was kind of nice.
And what's interesting is, because I'm not Jewish and I've heard mensch mentioned, I always thought a mensch was a negative thing, but I realize it's not, because I looked it up.
It's a positive thing.
Yeah, it means you're a good guy, a person of integrity and honor. And I was like, oh, and here, because when she says, oh, you're a mensch, I'm like, what is she mean? He's a mensch.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. So from there, we finally go to meet Leslie's kids, and I guess the grandchildren and the brother. And
her granddaughter is adorable.
Yes.
Leslie's granddaughter was asking Gerry, do you actually love Grandma? Because they call her
Yeah.
Grandma.
That's cute.
Are you actually a couple? I think you would be a very good couple. And at the end
Yeah.
of the episode, there are outtakes where she's telling Gerry not to dodge her questions. I mean, the kid must be
Oh,
about
that's
what,
cute.
6 or 7? So I was like, oh, well, maybe he should marry, Leslie, because this is a really cute granddaughter to have in your family. But anyway.
That's funny. I will say that what was interesting is these children are a little bit more direct. They're like, doesn't it bother you, mom, that he's dating Leslie's? Like, what do you think? You know me. And they're like, it
Right.
does bother me.
Yeah. There was a totally different vibe from
Yeah.
Leslie's family, very protective of her,
Yes.
a bit defensive.
Yes.
They came into it saying, like, basically Gary's going to have to prove himself to us. So I thought that was interesting, is that
Yeah.
they started out it was a little tough. And I was expecting there to be some serious drama, because she's got the 2 sons and the daughter, and they're coming at it like, hey, don't
Very
mess with my
serious.
mom. But actually, it was a lovely, visit.
It was very sweet. Even the daughter said that Leslie, her mom, is like her best friend. And so she
Yeah.
was worried about her mom. And then eventually Gerry sat down with Stuart, I believe is his
Yes,
name.
is the brother's name. Yeah.
And that was a very sweet conversation, because Stuart's like, she's never dated anyone like you. And
Yes.
he's like, and you're a good guy. He even admitted, he called him a mensch. He said, you are a
Yes.
good guy. So I thought that was actually very sweet.
Yes. And Gerry, to me, it felt like nowhere, said, if I were to ask for your blessing to marry Leslie, what would you say? And
I know. Yeah.
and then
That
Stuart
was of
said,
note.
yeah, Stuart said, well, yeah, you could marry her. But this is the first mention of marriage, is it
That
not?
is correct. This is the first mention where he directly asked a family member that we saw, do I
Yeah.
have permission to marry her? Which is interesting. I'm
Right.
like, all right, I
But
didn't do that with anybody else that we're aware of.
yeah, I mean, I'm like, is that supposed to be the end game of Golden Bachelor? Is you're supposed to get engaged? I didn't think that was necessarily the
Um,
end game.
I don't know if they said it, but it's a spinoff of The Bachelor where that is the end game.
Yeah.
So potentially, but
Okay. Yeah.
that was interesting. Either way, I feel like he won everybody over, and it ends with, in a typical like Bachelor episode, him kissing Leslie against the wall after they said I love yous again.
First of all, it was a very passionate, sexy scene where they're like nose to nose, and he goes into this little like preamble about, a wise man once said, if you love somebody, to say it and not waste your time and not say it. And he says, I love you, I love you. And he kind of like gets breathless, or like his voice breaks, like with emotion. And my immediate thought was, who did he really say it to first? Did we see the order in which the episode is structured? Was that the order in which they filmed it? So did he in actuality tell Faith he loved her first and then Leslie? Because with Leslie, it was very like passionate, a bit more so than his exchange with Faith.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's this public against a brick wall kiss, which I feel is popular in many different dating shows.
Many dating shows, it's always the wall. You want the wall. That is correct.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think he felt it more for Leslie or for Faith?
I don't know. I mean, I will say for Faith, he was willing to say it in front of her family. So he was willing to let other people know about it. But for Leslie, it was like a separate private moment. So I don't quite know what it is, but it was interesting that he said it to Faith and to Leslie.
Yes.
And I'll say from there, we kind of go straight to the rose ceremony.
Yes, the long-awaited rose ceremony. And Gerry is conflicted and he is confused. And Gerry states, I'm in an impossible situation.
Yeah, he is. And all the women get out of the limo.
Yeah.
For some reason, they're talking to Jesse. I'm like, now is not the time to talk to these women, Jesse. Leave them alone. Let them get their rose or not get their rose. Leave them alone.
But did you see Jesse's expression? I don't think he knew that any I love yous were exchanged, because who was the first person to come out? Was it Leslie?
Teresa was first, I think. Okay. I don't know. Maybe it was Leslie.
I think it was Leslie. I think it was Leslie, because she said, oh, we said that we loved each other, or he said he loved me. And Jesse's like, really? Like he
He's
said
like,
he
he's
loved,
not supposed to do
yeah,
that.
right. And then he heard it from Faith, and he's like, like, okay. And then with Theresa, she had just said, I told him I loved him, and he didn't say the words, but I feel like it's headed that direction. And
Yeah.
Jesse gave no indication that he's like,
He can't say anything.
okay.
Yeah.
You know, so of course they're just stretching time. They're stretching time on the
They're
show.
stretching time.
Build the
I will
suspense.
say, out of all the women, to me, Faith looked the most nervous. She looked the most nervous out of
Yes.
all of them. Like she looked
Yes.
very, I don't know, like sad or something. So something was kind of up there with her expression.
There was
It was
something. Can I
interesting.
just have an aside? I loved Leslie's dress.
Oh, it was a very nice dress. Yeah.
I just loved it. I don't
Good
know.
for
There was
her.
something about it. It was with the beads and the lace, and it was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if it was a pale green. So I don't know. I really liked the dress. I don't know.
It was a beautiful dress. It was a beautiful, it had like a little V cut, like
Yes.
a deep V, mind you,
Yes.
in the front. But yeah, she looked great.
Yeah. She's always presented herself as sexier, which I think Gerry responds to on a visceral level.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that's what he's about. I don't know.
I guess we're gonna see.
We're
Yeah.
gonna see. So the rose ceremony begins, and Gerry gives his first rose to Leslie, just like that,
Yep.
without any hesitation. Leslie, boom.
Yeah. And then things go crazy town because Gerry has a breakdown that I did not see it really coming. I had forgotten that there were previews where they mentioned show that, and I totally forgot. I was like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on, Gerry? And he goes out. He says, I need a minute. He walks off stage. Cameras follow him. He says he feels like he's going to throw up. He's dying inside. He's cursing because they keep bleeping.
Yep, he is cursing.
I was like, I didn't think he had it in him to start cursing.
That's the first time he cursed that we've seen. Yep.
Yeah. And, you cut to the women. They're all kind of nervous and all that. Well, not Leslie, because she knows she's safe. She's got
Leslie's like, I'm safe, dude. Take your time.
Yeah, she's like, it's okay. We can hold off.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah. And he comes back in, and then Jesse's there, and he doesn't give out the second rose.
He does not give out the second rose. We cut to next week on the Golden Bachelor. I'm like, you know what, Golden Bachelor? I don't have time for this.
I know.
Let us know who he picks.
My heart can't take it.
My heart cannot take it. I'm ready to know.
Yeah.
Let's see who he chooses.
Who's the second finalist? So apparently that's going to happen next week, week 7, which is Women Tell All. And I'm like, no. I'm not ready for the Women to Tell All. Why did they do that? Is it just to make us wait for the finale? Because I would rather Women Tell All happen after the finale. But of course, they want to keep you stringing you along.
Television. Yeah, it's television. That's how it works.
And of course, you see a clip of Gerry just bawling his eyes out, talking to someone, we don't know who, in next week, saying, I'm so sorry that I hurt you, or that you were having trouble with my decision, or something to that effect. And you're like, who is it? Who did he send home?
Well, he sent home 2 women, so he could say that to one person or both of them. So I don't know who he's saying that to.
So, I mean, we don't know, but we do know it's between now Faith and Theresa. We don't know which one of them is given the second rose, which one is sent home. So, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, Theresa should be sent home.
Yeah, I agree.
But we do know that there were some red flags mentioned with geography, and it seems like Faith is kind of set in her ways about being at her home with her.
Absolutely. She doesn't want to leave her home.
So I don't know. In my opinion, it should come down. The final 2 should be Leslie and Faith.
I agree. But at this point, we will have to wait until next week.
Now, as far as Women Tell All, who do you think is going to have the most to share?
I mean, obviously, we know it's Kathy. Kathy will be the one to share the most. Let's be real about this. She's going to have a lot to say.
Can I just give you some friendly advice?
What do you think?
I think that there will be a lot around Kathy and the Askin group.
Yeah, that's true.
April,
Nancy,
Susan, Kathy, Nancy. Is that?
That's it. You spelled it.
Yeah. Although, I did that. I also think that Sandra is going to explain herself with the whole missing her daughter's wedding, because there were a lot of articles that came out after that was revealed where people were
Oh,
kind
that's
of giving her,
interesting.
I guess, hell about it or commenting about judging her.
Why?
So
That's rude.
I have a feeling that she might end up maybe feeling she has to explain
Explaining
herself
it.
and talk about that.
It's something to
Yeah.
do. Why not?
Yeah. I do now. I did send you an article that was in Glamour magazine online, and it was an interview between Susan and Kathy and how they're such good friends. And they mentioned, they kind of hinted, I don't know if there's something in the works, but they mentioned that they would love to do a show like the new Golden Girls, where it's
Yeah,
them
a
and
reality
the
show.
rest of the Askin ladies kind of living their lives, life and love at their age. So I was wondering, would that be something you would watch?
I would watch it if it was a reality show. Yeah, I think that I like most of those women, so I think I would watch
Yeah,
it. I think it'd be
yeah.
entertaining.
I
What do
think
you
that
think?
would be cool to have a Golden Girls reality show with the Askin crew. Yeah.
I think, well, it could happen at this point. You never know.
Well, we can only hope. Well, that's all we have for you. What we learned from the Hometowns episode is that we truly don't know what's in Gary's heart of hearts.
That's very true.